Texas baseball's undefeated, MLB players feel mistreated, and the UFC welterweights are getting heated. All this and more on College Crossfire.
What are those? He's coming back for that 2021 MVP. He's better than Josh Allen. He's better than Baker Mayfield. He's not better than Mahomes. I can't say that.
Well, Justin Tucker gives him his 99 rating in Madden.
Ceiling is the roof. There is no roof, so they have a pretty high ceiling.
SAT or the ACT? let's really see how.
That's enough talk. Let's talk.
That was good.
Welcome to College Crossfire. I am your host, Drew Jacob. Let's make the rounds. On first base, we've got, and I'm happy to say this the first time, our returning, defending champion of the world, Jacob. Jacob, how are we feeling today?
Let's go for two, baby. Here we go, Drew. Here we go.
Yes, sir. Started off, what, 0-3, 0-4?
0-4.
Two-game win streak?
0-4.
What a story it would be.
Yeah.
On second base, we've got a rookie making his first appearance. We've got Eli. Eli, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I unfortunately don't think Jacob's going to repeat, but...
Oh, harsh words. And then we've got someone making a comeback. Olivia, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling good. Last year I was on a 2-win streak, and then I unfortunately got the vid and couldn't continue. But so I'm ready to redeem that crown.
Excellent. Compelling stories all around. But y'all, that's enough talk. Let's talk. In a tale we've heard pretty often this season, Texas lost a hard-fought game against a superior team. This time it was the Baylor Bears taking the W at the Longhorns' expense for the second time this month. UT's upcoming game against Kansas doesn't have much in the way of ramifications for seeding in the Big 12 tournament, but you need to have some confidence built up going into the postseason if you expect your team to make some noise. Now, with that said, what does Texas need to do to regroup and rebound in their upcoming showdown with the Jayhawks? And on this one, starting with Jacob.
All right, Drew, it's the exact same scenario that's happened all season long. It happened against Tech twice. It happened against Baylor just a few short weeks ago. Almost happened against West Virginia. Texas couldn't complete from the three-point line. I think we made what? We shot like 3 of 24 from the game. Yeah. Really bad free throw shooting all around, 9 of 15. And once again, we couldn't finish for the final 8 minutes of the game. However, I've noticed a trend, though. In the game we beat Kansas, in the game we beat West Virginia, it wasn't Marcus Carr taking those shots. And trust me, it certainly was not Courtney Ramey. The way that we're going to regroup and come back as a team, Kansas doesn't matter. That game doesn't matter at all to us in terms of seeding. We're already projected to be a higher seed for the tournament. I think you need to trust the bigs, and you need to let Timmy Allen and Bishop do their jobs. And so for the final 10 minutes of Baylor, Timmy only had 2 shots, but he had 3 offensive rebounds and a steal. That's got to say something. I think you really just need to trust the bigs, and you kind of need to finally accept the fact that Courtney and Carr are not those guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're going to shoot 15% from the 3, you better trust the bigs and stop taking those shots. It's just not going to go well otherwise. But Eli, we're on you next.
I think, honestly, what we need to do is we need to move better off the ball. I think that our screens were not that great against Baylor, and like if we get our bigs involved more with the screens, start moving off ball, and just hit open shots more, I think that we'll be able to beat a good team.
Absolutely. You know, your eye's obviously drawn to the ball carrier and the passes they're getting made, but so much of basketball happens in how you do and how you play when you don't have the ball, with separation you're creating, and unfortunately against Baylor and when Texas is at their worst, none. But Olivia, we're on to you next.
Well, you said, what does Texas need to do to rebound against Kansas? And they need to rebound offensively and defensively. They need to control the ball if God, hopefully, they miss their shots, they need to obtain the ball. And if Texas misses their own shots, they need to go get them and have those second chance opportunities. They also cannot be going on these long droughts. They keep going on these 5-minute, 6-minute periods of times where they just don't score at all. And even defensively, if they can step up to the plate, Kansas is a good shooting team. They are a high-scoring game. They need to be able to make their shots, and you don't have to make all of them, but you need to not be able to go on those long droughts, and you need to keep possession of the ball.
Absolutely. You know, great performance from all 3 of you. Certainly better than Texas tends to do against high-end teams. That said, Jacob, you're going to be getting the 3 for this one. Olivia, the 2, and Eli, the 1. A lot of game left, though. Beat me if you can, survive if I let you. These words from retired pro wrestler Taz have come to describe the path of destruction left by Texas Longhorns men's baseball team thus far. Well, more or less. Shout out to Texas A&M Corpus Christi for keeping it close. It was great. Now, for real though, Texas's pitching has been particularly dominant thus far, averaging just over 1 earned run given up a game. That said, the team can't feast on the unranked forever, and they've got games against top 15 LSU, the lesser UT, Tennessee, coming up, as well as a matchup with UCLA. These will all take place as part of the annual Shriners Hospital for Children College Classic. It's a tougher road ahead, panelists, but will any of these squads be able to stand up to the top-ranked Longhorns, or will Texas continue to roll? And on this one, I'll go with Eli.
No is my answer. Our pitching has been impeccable, and as a baseball player, you know that that's where it starts. Our 3 starting pitchers have given up a total of 2 runs in a combined 6 appearances this year. We have 4 shutouts. We have a plus 62 run differential. I think that if we can continue to pitch well and play good defense, our offense will be able to score enough runs to win games.
Absolutely. You know, Eli, much like that answer you just gave, Texas' starting pitching has been lights out. And on this one, we're going to Olivia next.
You know, as much as I would love to be super optimistic, I think it's a little, it's not realistic to say that no one's going to beat Texas. It's baseball. You lose games in baseball. There's so many games. Yes, Texas pitching has been lights out. Yes, they have dominated every game they're playing. But they're going in a tournament against very good teams. And so someone is bound to have one bad night, whether one pitcher just can't get the job done, whether an outfielder makes a mistake, the batting's not on, something's going to happen to where Texas can't go an undefeated season in baseball. That is a very unrealistic thing to do with the sheer amount of games. And so do I think Texas will come out on top of this tournament? Yes. Will they clean sweep it? Probably not.
Understandable. You bring up a good point. If the pitching doesn't show up, which hasn't really happened this season, but if that does happen, can the offense pick up the pace? And we don't know yet. But what we do know is that Jacob, finishing this question off with you.
Nah, we're going to win. Don't even worry about it, guys. I'm going to give you a couple numbers right here. 43 strikeouts and 44 innings. That's just from the starters. From all the pitching as a whole, as a team, 78 strikeouts and 77 innings. The starters are posting, I think it was like a .48 ERA. Like Eli said, you got the 4 shutouts, you got a 6-0 start. Not only that, our fielding is posting a .38 ERA on the season with only 5 errors. I don't care how good your pitching is. How do you only give up 1 run over 3 games? That's some sort of dominance that Texas has not had in a long time. Texas is now the standard for what teams should be. Tennessee is a great team. That battle is going to be intense on Friday night. Yes, they are the 17th best team in the nation. Yes, they have Lipscomb, and I believe, I couldn't remember, it's like Caesar, I can't remember. But he's been on base 15 of 21 times over the last 4 games. They have yet to play a ranked opponent, though. They have yet to face this pitching team, and I can't wait to go in. I can't wait to beat the lesser UT. I can't wait to go on, move on 10-0 in the season.
Absolutely. High energy, Jacob, with a great high energy answer. Really liking it. That said, though, Eli, you'll be getting the 3 on this one. Don't worry, Jacob, you'll be getting the 2. And Olivia, unfortunately, you will be getting the 1. So I always say that a lot of game left. It's been a shakier start to the season for Texas softball, though. Something about throwing underhands doesn't seem to work here. With the team getting off to a very pedestrian 9-7 start and free-falling out of the top 25 despite their top 10 preseason ranking, John, wherever you are, your prediction from a few weeks ago has aged very well, and I was wrong to put you on blast for it. But being right is only part of my job. The other part is asking the question, so let's go for it. The team is on a 3 as of a couple hours ago, 3-game win streak. So let me know, panel, is Texas softball back on track? And on this one, start with Olivia.
Look, you can't deny that they've had a good showing in those last 3 games. They look strong. However, to be back, you have to beat good teams. And the teams that they've been playing haven't been of the same level as Texas softball. Those games should be wins. I think that they need to play much tougher opponents and beat those teams for them to have confidence that they are back on track. Until they can do that, they are looking like they could be back on track, but you can't. I am not going to sit here and say absolutely until they beat a very good team.
This is true. I would say back for me is defined as me getting back to believing that they're as good as I sort of thought they were in the preseason. No, not yet. But Jacob, on to you next.
Yeah, I'm going to have to roll with Olivia on this one. This is a really interesting team. For a while there, it kind of reminded me of the basketball team. You know, you had all of your young girls coming in that were taking some scoring, kind of in our third baseman, Mia Scott, who's batting .500. Or we have the new freshman pitcher who's throwing a 1.36 ERA through 3 games. But also you have the veteran leadership and Mia Acapulco. Did I get that time?
I think so.
I think I got it. We'll see. And then Shea O'Leary, as well as Jefferson and one of our outfielders and a first baseman. So you had your old and your new combining. However, it hasn't taken that way. Yes, they still need a little bit of time to get going. But like Olivia said, they have yet to beat a real opponent. They've beaten Texas State and UTSA. That's not really saying much. And we're going to see really just how good this team is because we're playing number 2 Alabama on Friday. As well, who else do we have in our conference? The national championship runner, or excuse me, the national champions in Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, who's ranked in the top 10, and Iowa State, who received a 26 vote for the week. Not looking good for the Lady Longhorns. I think we actually finished ranked this season 24 in the nation.
Yeah, Texas State, Sam Houston, real murderer's row of wins there. No, good points all around, but Eli, on to you next.
You know, I think it's really too early to say whether we're back on track or not. A couple wins is a good sign, but it's a fluke if you don't back it up with a couple more wins, and we've shown a really streaky season so far. So I think it's important for us to kind of bear down, take the momentum that we've created. We've played some good defense, pitched well. A lot of our losses have been like double-digit runs losses, and in the last couple of games, we've given up just a few runs, had a shutout in there too. I think if we continue to pitch, play good defense, build on the momentum, we have a chance to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, shaky play will get you nowhere in a conference as strong as the Big 12 and a conference that has teams like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in it, as said. That said, though, Jacob and Olivia, you guys are actually tied for the 3 on this one, and Eli, you will be getting the 1. We've got to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be talking the players locked out of the MLB and the fighters locked in the octagon. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire, but before we get started, let's take a look at the scoreboard. Leading the show, we've got Jacob with 8 points. Coming in a close second, we've got Olivia with 6, and in third, we've got Eli with 5. Very tight game all around. Let's just jump back into it. Only 90s kids remember an MLB season like this, because for the first time in 27 years, opening day has been delayed due to a dispute between the owners and the Players Association. After 9 straight days of negotiations, all parties will be leaving the table for the immediate future without an agreement on the new collective bargaining deal. What we know now is that for the first 2 series of the regular season have just been scrapped, and Rob Manfred will continue his never-ending reign as America's least popular sports commissioner. So, panelists, let me know. What further effects do you foresee the lockout having on the MLB season, and if you want, the MLB going forward? Jacob, we'll start with you.
We don't know, actually. The one ever time there wasn't an opening day game, that was due to a player's strike. That was the player's choice to not play. Right now, it's due to the clubhouse and due to ownership for why they're not playing. And you know what? Once again, it is due to Rob Manfred. Remember, this is the same Rob Manfred that said the World Series was just a piece of metal. This is the same commission that's such a joke and that honestly constantly underlooks his players. Not like the highest paid ones, but we're talking about the guys in AAA ball and AA ball. The fact that they weren't able to come to a new CBA agreement because they want to give the players more money, even though they were going to add more playoff teams, that just doesn't add up to me. For the future of MLB, I see something happening like this. Games are going to start back up in June. But I think actually you're going to have some superstars sitting out the rest of the season to make a statement. I think that's going to say a lot about the MLB going forward. But this is a thing that's been on the downfall for a long time in terms of rankings and popularity. I don't think they're going to recover from this for a long, long time, personally.
You know, a commissioner's job is really to make the owners money. You wonder what Rob Manfred's future is, in fact. But I know the future of this question, so we're moving on to Eli next. That was great.
You know, I think that this season is not going to be a great one because already we've missed 2 games, and a lot of people think that that's not a big deal. But since the players can't talk to the teams because they're locked out, a lot of the free agents, and there are a lot of big free agents this year, a lot of free agents are going to come into new teams late. And they're not going to have chemistry with their new teammates. And so even if we do get some semblance of a season, I don't think it's going to be a good season for baseball.
Yeah, it's certainly not looking that way. You know, I mean, it seems like they made no progress in their time in Florida trying to come to an agreement. You just don't know what's going to come next. But Olivia, we're on to you next.
Well, I think Mr. Roger Goodell needs to thank Mr. Rob for making him look like a better commissioner, because I thought that was a hard thing to do, but clearly not. So baseball cannot afford this right now. The MLB, the organizations cannot afford to not play games. The popularity of baseball with the average fan is already declining. People don't want to watch these games, go to these games, because there's a sheer amount of them, the popularity is decreasing. People have better things to do with their time and money. And so, quite frankly, the average fan doesn't care. And that's a problem, that they don't care and that they're like, sure, whatever, because they only want to tune into the playoffs, the World Series, or the games leading up to that to see who gets in. So they can't afford to miss these games because the organizations can't afford it, the players can't afford it, the owners can't afford it, and quite frankly, the commissioner can't afford it. And so I think it's quite dumb on everyone in charge for just being like, oh, we can't come to agreement. Oh, well, no, you quite frankly monetarily cannot afford to do that. And so I think this is obviously it's hurting the players because they're not getting to play, they're not getting paid, but in the long run, this is going to affect the owners and the people in charge way more than it's going to affect the fans, which is very sad for the MLB, quite frankly, that they're basically self-sabotaging themselves.
You know, you bring up a good point just about the length of the season and the lack of interest. Cutting it short might be a blessing in disguise. I mean, let's be completely honest.
162, please.
It reminds me of a 2014 NBA season. Low-key my favorite one I've ever watched. Every game mattered. That said, Olivia, great answers all around, very well-rounded. So you will be getting the 3 on this one. Jacob the 2, and Eli the 1. UFC 272 is this Saturday, and its main event will see a grudge match between the #1 ranked welterweight Colby Covington and the #6 ranked Jorge Masvidal. With Covington being the current #1 contender and possessing a more impressive win-loss record and superior mat wrestling skills, the odds makers are siding with him. I think he was rated at plus 320 earlier when I saw it, or you know what I mean, he was favored by 320. Though fans of the sport wouldn't dare count out Masvidal. He may have lost consecutive bouts in recent memory, but both were against current welterweight champion Kamaru Usman. And after all, adding personal stakes can make things unpredictable. So, let me know, panel. Will it be Covington or Masvidal leaving UFC 272 with their hand raised? On this one, starting with Eli.
You know, it's hard to root against Masvidal because he holds the record for the fastest knockout in UFC history. Look it up. It's kind of brutal, though. But he's just not good enough on the ground to win this one. I think that he's going to get out-wrestled, and as soon as he gets down there, it's not going to be pretty. So I'm going with Covington on this one.
Absolutely, it's over if it goes to the ground. I mean, yeah, that just has to be a huge part of his game plan. Do not let it get there. That's it. Olivia, on to you next.
Well, the boys are fighting. There is some drama here, and as you can see in any sports history, when things become personal, the fight gets that more exciting, the stakes get raised. Covington got his name sort of dragged through the mud by Masvidal, so he's coming with something to prove. Not only is this just a fight that he feels that he needs to win, he feels that he needs to win this to essentially shut Masvidal down, whatever, dismiss all those claims. Masvidal, on the other hand, has a little big mouth on him. And he's coming in now going to have to prove that. And so, personally, I think an underdog, when things are personal, always has the upper hand because they're trying to prove a lot more. And I think Masvidal is going to put up a fight just because he's a big talker, and I want to put my money where his mouth is.
You know, absolutely. Have you seen, by the way, Covington's got a bit of a mouth on him, too. He said he called the BMF title a joke. He said he's the people's champion, Florida's champion, Donald Trump's champion. He said all this to Masvidal. So it's a lot on the line, just no real titles. And Jacob, we're on to you next.
Well, I may not be an area of expertise in the subject. I'm a pacifist. I love love, you know? However, these are going to be two brothers duking it out. This is not going to be a fight. This is going to be a cage match. Get it? Cage match? Yeah, Matt liked that one. What's going to happen here in this situation is Masvidal actually, he's been the one that's dragging in the mud. Covington, he's admitted time and time again, he said Covington's a lesser man than me, he's a lesser opponent. Which kind of like, that's got to take that something personal if you call him a lesser man. That's got to mean something in the UFC. More importantly, UFC color commentary was actually saying that this fight, excuse me, will actually determine if any of them will ever compete to go for a title round again. Because they're saying that if this happens, Covington will actually move up to the 185 section. If he wins, he can go ahead and very well move on. Now, Masvidal is a very strong fighter. He's got a heck of an arm. However, in his two fights that he did have, he went down hard to the champion. And the one time that Covington won against the champion, he actually hung out to the very end through the 5 rounds, and it was actually a judge's decision that won. And even then, some people felt like he had gotten robbed. Covington's quick on his feet. He's got a quick jab. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go with Covington winning and then walking away from 170 forever.
Ooh, you think he'd win and walk away from a #1 contendership?
Yep.
Ooh, that's a bold take. If that comes true, we're going to come back and give you props for that.
Perfect.
But for this question, we're going with Eli. He seems like the one who kind of who really knows a little bit about UFC. I kind of have to give it to him.
I called it UCF before we were on camera.
She did, yeah.
So
That happened.
You know,
Central
I should
Florida,
not have
though.
corrected her.
very knowledgeable on this subject.
Excellent work, everybody. Jacob, you will be beating the 2 on this one, and Olivia, the 1. We're going to take another break, but when we come back, it'll be for all the marbles, because up next is Rapid Fire. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire, and I hope our panel's ready to think on their toes, because it's time for Rapid Fire, which of course means it's
Anyone's game.
That's what we say every week for the new people in the audience. John Morant, or in German, yes, Morant. John Morant's bringing Showtime to Memphis with a slew of incredible plays, from Dunk of the Year contenders to fadeaway buzzer beaters and unstoppable pick and rolls. The Grizzlies are becoming must-see TV as Morant potentially makes the leap from star to superstar. Making circus plays in big moments and winning games while you do it, it's tough. It's tough to beat. So what we're asking our panel is, what can John Morant do to top himself at this point? And anyone can jump in.
Backflip.
Love it. Backflip, like release 3-pointer 2, or just a flip?
I think
Unrelated.
like shoot, and like before it even goes in, flip. Like lands a flip in the basket.
That'd be the best play of the decade, I think. It's a solid answer from Olivia. I'm loving
Thank
this
you.
backflip business.
Good luck.
He can cut his hair. He should cut his hair.
all right.
I'm not feeling it. I don't like it. It's kind of gives me Lonnie Walker's hair, and everyone criticized Lonnie for years for his hair.
Should've.
Everyone duped on Lonnie, said your hair's trash, but just because Ja can dunk, he's superior to Lonnie. As a San Antonio Spurs fan, I can't let that happen. So I'm gonna have to say, also, that was a flagrant foul, by the way. He did put his elbow over Jakob Poeltl. That should not have counted. That was an offensive foul. That's beside the point. Ja, cut your hair. Stop fouling the Spurs. Stop rubbing the Spurs in the play tournament.
Oh, we have some anger.
I got a
here.
little bit of anger towards Ja Morant. I'm not a huge fan.
Just doesn't like the man's hairstyle,
No, I
and he's
don't.
entitled to his opinion. That said, Ja, I think it looks
Look,
great. Eli?
As a fellow Spurs fan, I unfortunately saw the other night John Morant caught like a throw from the other side of the court, jumped up, threw it, swished it. There's not really much wrong he can do right now. He's got an incredible handle and is putting guys on posters every game. I guess cut the hair with Jacob.
Oh my God.
Olivia, I think you saw this coming, but you will be getting the 2 on this one.
Yeah. Backflip always wins.
Got 2 more to go. With declining year-over-year ratings, as Olivia mentioned earlier, and a lockout on the horizon, America's passion for baseball seems to be in danger of waning, even more than it has been. It feels like the common sentiment among casual fans, and perhaps even the more dedicated, is the game is boring, pretty much. I mean, so Crossfire, we've been asking a lot of you guys lately, but it's time to save the day once again. This time, we're asking what rule you'd like to change or add to the game of baseball to make it more exciting. Anyone can jump in.
Legalize steroids.
Yes, love it. Thank you.
Legalize steroids for the game of baseball. That was the highest ever ratings with Mark McGuire and Sosa. Barry Bonds, all of them. Legalize steroids. Let them get all pumped up for the game. Let's get them to rage. Let's finally bring some excitement back into baseball, and let's stop seeing so many strikeouts.
No one likes seeing small ball. They like seeing guys hit 60 home runs a season. Like it's just irrefutable.
Perfect. Let's see Altuve jacked, you know?
I
Like
see
kind of
it.
walking around like that like a Lego man,
I
you know?
wanna see it.
Let's see it. Yeah.
Altuve's
If
already
you let them
like-
juice, they're going to do it more than they've ever had. So like they'll get bigger and stronger than they ever have been.
Exactly.
Anyone else can jump in.
I'd say make the coaches be the pitchers. I know it sounds like a weird take, but you want to see home runs, have your 75-year-old coaches throwing like 25 miles an hour with like needing Tommy John surgery in 2 days. Have them pitch. We'll see who hits dingers then.
Final score is looking like basketball games. Olivia, what do you got?
Well, I got 2 things. One, reasonable answer, shorten the game. The game is too long for the average fan. I think when you start getting into later games, you know, matter a little bit more, then you can go to the 9 innings. But all these 2 months that just are kind of for fun, make it like 5 innings, 6 innings, 7 innings, keep people engaged. It also raises the stakes for other people. And you know, to kind of go with their level of answer, I think it shouldn't be illegal to hit someone with the ball, and then we see a lot more fights. And people like fights, and people tune into fights, and people get excited to watch fights. That's why hockey's popular. So
That's why the UCF is also popular.
yeah, so
UCF
you know,
is great,
if you
yeah.
can bring in violence, I think, you know, why not?
Well, you know, in the meeting we had Monday figuring out these questions, I did tell Marcus that my answer was if you get hit with the ball twice, you get to fight the pitcher, and it's totally legal. That said, also regarding Jacob and I's comments about steroid use, this is all satire. These do not reflect the opinions of us or TSTV. Steroid use is, of course, a detriment to the game, really destroys the integrity. So, in a satirical sense, Jacob will be getting the 2 on this one.
Satirical high five.
Satirical high five.
Boo.
To the surprise of no one, Tom Brady did not spend much time enjoying retirement out of the public eye. It was recently announced that he'll be producing and playing himself in a feature film titled 80 for Brady, centered around a road trip of Patriots fans on their way to see his eventual Super Bowl victory against the Falcons. That was the 28-3 one, in case anyone didn't remember. Sorry, Falcons. Brady isn't the first pro athlete to make the jump from the field to the screen, and he won't be the last. So, panelists, I want to know what athlete you'd like to see in Hollywood next. And bonus points if you can tell us what part of their career the movie would center around. Anyone can jump in.
I'd like to see Rob Gronkowski just on the screen, just more. Like, I've seen his commercials, and he seems like he's really funny, not on purpose, but I'd love to see Rob Gronkowski.
I hope by the end of the third act he finally gets his USA membership.
I would love to see TJ Yates. I don't know if any of y'all know who that is. Backup Texans quarterback that led the Houston Texans to their very first franchise playoff win.
Ooh, sad stuff.
And as a backup player, you know, I want to know what his journey is, going from a guy who's like, okay, sweet, I'm a backup QB, I'm not going to get hurt, all of a sudden put on the biggest stage of sports, wins. You know, he just is he's a good dude. I think it would be an interesting story that no one else would have known otherwise unless you were a Houston person.
That's a good point. It brings interesting stories to light. That is a solid answer. But Jacob, what do you got?
Give me 2016 Draymond Green for why he'd always kick players in the groin. I just want to know what the mindset was. I gotta know, Draymond. You lost yourself a ring, buddy. Just let me know.
like him being cast as the hero. It's like it's a noble cause.
Yeah, maybe he was. Maybe he was. I'll never know.
That said, Eli, I got to give you the points for this one, but Jacob will be getting his second win in a row. Do we have time for FaceTime? We do. Jacob, take it away.
I actually didn't have anything prepared for this one today, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Jacob.
I tried to. I appreciate the support for all my lovely 3 fans in the audience tonight, and Matthew as well. Thank you guys for giving me a shot. I promise I'll come back with some less humorous content next week. Wind it up. Go Horns, go.
If you win again, you better have a FaceTime ready.
Yeah.
That said, congrats to Jacob, and thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode of College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Lastly, be sure to wake up with the Want to Know Sports Show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. For all the panelists and everyone in studio and Master Control, I'm Drew Jacob. Have a wonderful evening.